Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the THOR Energy PLC investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged. They can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab that's just situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Please just simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it is appropriate to do so, and these will be available via your Investor Meet Company dashboard. Before we begin, I would like to submit the following poll, and if you could give that your kind attention, I'm sure the company would be most grateful. And I would now like to hand you over to Managing Director, Nicole Galloway-Warland. Nicole, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Jake. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining me today. My name's Nicole Galloway-Warland, and I'm Managing Director of THOR Energy. THOR Energy has been very busy on the ground exploring over the last few months, including our current ongoing RC drilling program over in the US, where we're drilling at our Wedding Bell and Radium Mountain uranium projects. We also have made a few corporate changes, so I thought this was a very good opportune time to give you a brief update. During the presentation, I'm going to be switching off my camera so you can see the slides a little bit more clearly. And I'll switch it back on at the end when I address the questions. As I mentioned, we've made some strategic changes. One of those you will have noticed earlier in the year, and that's when we changed from THOR Mining to THOR Energy. And this is really around the strategic focus on uranium and energy metals. We've also made some divestments and looking at monetizing some other assets. Few reasons. This is obviously to focus on the uranium, but also it's an opportunity to generate income, alternate to just going to the market for capital raising. It also allows for any opportunities that may arise to acquire any new uranium projects. So our uranium assets, we have 3 projects, all located in the US, so in Utah and Colorado. These are all 100% owned, and they're in proven mining jurisdictions, so there's no sovereign risk. As mentioned, we are currently undertaking drilling at our Wedding Bell and Radium Mountain projects. So just a little bit of background about uranium, because it's a little bit different to some of the other commodities. So the uranium spot price is sitting at about 74.5 US per pound. This is based on yesterday. And we've seen about a 54% rise in that spot price over since the start of the year, and this is a 12-year high. For those familiar with uranium, when it runs very fast and hard, and we look to be at that pivotal point now. So what are some of the key drivers with uranium and nuclear energy? I think the key one is environment. People want that net zero carbon emissions, electrification, energy security and domestic supply. We know the world is in conflict at the moment, so geopolitical risk is a big factor. Russia invading the Ukraine, we have the coup in Nigeria. The rise in small nuclear reactors, as well as the major reactors. And I think the other one is the current stockpiles and inventories are depleting. So this is creating a demand for uranium. So I mentioned green energy. Uranium is now considered green energy, and if we want to have our net zero carbon emissions by 2050, we need to triple the amount of nuclear energy capacity that we currently have. So where is that energy, where is that uranium going to come from? So this is probably one of the key factors. It's a baseload power source, although renewables are fantastic, they're not baseload. The other one is China. China is the 3rd largest producer of nuclear power, followed with the US and France 1 and 2. With China, they currently have about 53 reactors in operation, looking at constructing 23 and then another further 70 planned. So although they have a small resource of uranium, they really need to increase that. So where are they going to import that uranium? So again, there's going to be a strong continuous supply demand for uranium, and this is one of the places it will be coming from. If we move the shift now over to THOR and our US uranium exposure. So the US want national security, geopolitical reasons predominantly. They are the largest producer of nuclear power, about 30%, yet currently only have 3% domestic supply. So they want to increase this domestic supply. Our projects are in proven mining jurisdictions, so Utah and Colorado, so no sovereign risk. They're high grade, they're very shallow, they're about 50 to 60 metres below the surface, and within the Uravan mineral belt, so an area that has been historically mined. So we feel that there's a lot of exploration growth and opportunities through drilling initially and then building resource reserves. We also have a very experienced board and management team with uranium backgrounds and uranium success track records. So if we move on to that board, we have Alastair Clayton, our chair. He's a geologist. However, these days he's more in the business and finance side of things. And he had a uranium background involved in some of the African assets, Bannerman, etc. Myself, a geologist with 30 years industry experience, worked globally from exploration through to mining. And from 2004 to 2011, I worked in the uranium sector and was fortunate to be involved in the discovery of the Sandfire uranium deposit located in South Australia, which is now being developed into an ISR operation. Our non-executive director, Mark McGough, has extensive experience both in industry and in government, and again has a strong background in uranium and was involved with Toro and the discovery of the Theseus uranium deposit. So a strong board and management team with uranium experience. Quick corporate snapshot. So our share price in the UK is sitting at about 1.6p. In Australia, because we are dual listed on the ASX and the AIM, it's sitting at about 3 cents. Cash in bank is about £1.2 million, and our market cap sits at about £4 million. So certainly a lot of opportunity to increase all that. So if we move over to our projects, as mentioned, we have 3 projects in the US. So Wedding Bell, Radium Mountain, and Vanadium King, located in Utah and Colorado. These are 100% owned. And if you look at the map, the Uravan belt is really just a geographical location of deposits that sit on the border of Utah and Colorado. You can see where ours sit. And what I'd like to point out is the location of the White Mesa Energy Fuels Mill. This is the only licensed facility to process uranium and vanadium in the US. And this is trucking distance from our projects, which is certainly a huge benefit once the project gets to that stage. So good infrastructure around our projects. ESG, obviously, community and stakeholder engagement is critical to the success of any project. And this is something we've endeavoured to build very early on. So engaging the community, involving them, making sure that they're aware of the activities we are undertaking and allowing them to collaborate with us where they can. So we've sponsored local events. We employ locally. We have a local geology team. The photo on our right is some of the government officials that came out to site 2 weeks ago to see the start of our drilling program. And they're all very supportive of our project, which is great to have that local favourable attitude with any project, but particularly in a foreign country such as the US for us. These styles of deposits, I won't go too much into the geology, but they're referred to as salt wash sandstone deposits. Basically, the uranium and the vanadium have formed in extensive paleochannel systems. And that's the unique feature, is these deposits are relatively thin. However, they extend over kilometres. So in some cases, up to 17 to 20 kilometres. So very laterally continuous. They're high grade and they tend to sit on the oxidation redox boundary and are traditionally mined by open cut room and pillar. Last year, we completed our maiden drilling program, testing rim rock and groundhog, so a long strike of historic workings, but also section 23, which is a relatively new area. There's no evidence of historic workings. So we did a maiden drilling program there to test the lateral extent of uranium through the saltwash formation. We got favourable results using the downhole gamma and then comparing that to assays. You can see on the chart over on the right where we've got the gamma results correlating nicely with the assay results. All three regions intercepted uranium mineralization and also a vanadium halo. Results up to 0.5% uranium. This is quite encouraging. We would be happy to see anything over that 500 ppm or 0.05% uranium, but certainly around the 0.1% uranium or above would be fantastic. So from there, we then flew some regional helicopter radiometric and magnetic surveys over the area. This is the first time high-resolution geophysics has been flown. Regional work had been done in the 60s, but no high-res work. From this image, you can see the red anomalies, and these are uranium anomalies. Some of them are around rimrock and groundhog, where we're currently drilling. But you can see there is some lateral extent, and we'll be following that up. The other area that's encouraging is section 23, where there's also an anomaly. So we'll be again extending our drill pattern to test some of these anomalies. So as I mentioned, we're currently drilling over at our Wedding Bell and Radium Mountain projects. We've started the 4,000 metre drilling program at section 23, and then we'll be moving to groundhog and rimrock. We are using Bort Longyear to do the drilling, and then we have Jet West for the downhole gamma. The program itself will take about 6 to 8 weeks, and we started that about a week or so ago. What's fortunate with uranium drilling is we will be able to do downhole gamma throughout the program. So we will have news flow throughout this program. We'll probably do downhole logging after the completion of section 23, and then again after groundhog and rimrock. And we will be able to announce these gamma results to the market throughout the program. At the end of the program, assays will be sent to ALS laboratories in Reno, as well as over to ALS in Vancouver, and they will give us uranium as well as vanadium assays. So we'll have news flow throughout the program, and then at the completion with the assay results. Over in Vanadium King, this area is a little bit more greenfields. It's adjacent to the historic Yellow Cat uranium area. And in this case, the rocks are undercover, but we know we've got 2 petroleum holes in the north where they intercepted uranium. So we'll be following that up at the end of this drilling program, current drilling program. So looking forward to get on the ground here at Vanadium King and test this area. So just looking at next steps and news flow. So as I mentioned, we're currently on the ground drilling at our uranium projects. We then hope to move to our Vanadium King project. And as mentioned, we'll have downhole gamma results throughout the program with follow-up assays on uranium and vanadium. So quite a lot of news flow coming prior to Christmas. So just looking at the timeline or the growth, obviously we have permits and licensing in place. We feel with exploration, we've got a lot of drill growth opportunities, and then we'll be working towards JORC-compliant mineral resource estimates, particularly at the rim rock and groundhog areas. And then we know with Section 23, this is an underexplored resource potential area. We'll also be looking at project generation and monitorising of our assets. So I'll keep the market updated on that progress. So just from a recap on the investment opportunity of THOR Energy, uranium focus, very favourable fundamentals from a supply demand, and this is not just short-term but very much long-term fundamentals. We're exploring in mining-friendly jurisdictions, so there's no sovereign risk. We have a good pipeline of drill targets to test. We have a modest market cap, so potential to re-rate the share price and that market capitalisation based on exploration results. And most importantly, we have an experienced board and management team who are very passionate about what they do. So thank you very much for that brief presentation, and I'll now hand you over to Jake to put my camera back on, and I will start working through some of the Q&A.
Nicole, that's great. And thank you very much indeed for your presentation this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions just by using the Q&A tab that's situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. But just while the team take a few moments to review those questions that were submitted already, I would like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard. Nicole, we obviously received a number of pre-submitted questions ahead of today's event, and as you can see there in the Q&A tab, we've also received a number of questions throughout your presentation this morning as well. So firstly, thank you to all of those on the call for taking the time to submit their questions. And Nicole, if I could just ask you just to make your way through those questions, if I could just ask you to read them out and give your responses where it's appropriate to do so, and then I'll pick up from you at the end. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to run through the questions just in the order they've come in. So the first question was about the divestment of Ragged Range project, which some of you may have seen in the quarterly, and why is this the case? We've made a corporate and exploration strategic decision to focus on uranium and energy metals, and we feel that this is not a core asset to us, so hence the opportunity to divest the project and hence monetize that asset. The next question is about the equity raise we did a month ago, intended for green energy metal projects. Are you intending to do a fundraise for Australian assets, or are you planning to use the cash resources to help fund these projects? So the capital raise we did a month ago, so that was strategically a small raise of 1 million Australian at a price of 4.2 cents, was just to accelerate the uranium drilling over in the US. It allows us to keep the momentum going, drill any additional holes, and increase assay amounts, etc. So we still have cash in the bank to cover our existing Australian projects, but as mentioned, we are looking at monetizing some of our assets. At Alfred East, we have Fleet Space Technologies collaborating on equity interest, so they'll be undertaking the geophysics that they're doing at the moment, as well as monitoring, modelling that data, so there'll be no cost involved to us on that project. Next question, why did you partner with Fleet Space Technologies at Alfred East? What will be the benefits, and will they be able to assist with the development of the ANT surveys? Does this take a stake effect on the company long term? So I sort of touched on this briefly. So Fleet Space Technologies have taken an equity interest in THOR, and this is in collaboration with the Alfred East project. So they will be undertaking the ambient noise or ANT surveys, and they're modelling the data in conjunction with THOR's existing 3D model, and then using AI as well as machine learning to extrapolate the Alfred Copper Belt. We feel that this is a very positive move. It brings their technology and combines it with our exploration expertise. So it's a fantastic collaboration. And yes, we do see this as a long-term partnership. It's a vote of confidence to THOR by having them on board. So really welcome Fleet Space Technology. Next question, what are your expectations of the recent drilling program at Radium Mountain Wedding Bale? So I'm obviously very optimistic about the drilling program. We'll have that downhole gamma results out for each of the prospects as they come through, and then assays at the end. So certainly a lot of news flow as we lead up to Christmas on that project, and then moving over to our Vanadium King project. Why did you move to green energy metals, given the difficulties of operating as a junior? Surely it would make sense to focus on the Australian assets. So look, I think in summary, based on the expertise of the THOR team, we felt that the focus on uranium and energy metals was the best way to move the company forward. We had a very broad, diverse portfolio of projects, and as a junior, we felt that we were spread too thin, both staffing as well as financially, and so we made that strategic decision to focus in on uranium assets. The US is a very easy jurisdiction to work in. It's a very favourable mining-friendly area to be in, and there's no sovereign risk associated with us. So we don't see any difficulty in working in that jurisdiction. Do you feel you can fully function to help the share price with your flagship projects based in the US? And how can you reassure stakeholders that you're able to operate efficiently in the different time zones? We have, over in the US, we have a very experienced local team. The time zone, although, sure, it does create some challenges, but it's very easy to have morning meetings with the US. It's their afternoon, it's our morning. So I don't see any limitations in that team. I also get over there very frequently to obviously coordinate things with the team, as well as speak to some of the key stakeholders, government, as well as community-wise. So again, yes, there's some small challenges, but nothing major to impact our exploration over there. Are you able to explain in more detail about the in situ recovery process, and does it actually help the environment as it's claimed to do so? I think the best, I can certainly talk about ISR, but we have a very good video on our website, so I certainly recommend having a look at that video. In situ recovery is environmentally friendly and certainly a lower cost alternative to traditional open cut and underground mining. It essentially uses a pattern of wells or water bores to inject a solution into the mineralized zone where the copper is extracted by a series of extraction wells, and then that copper is stripped off and that solution lixiviant gets recycled back through the system. In the case of Alfred East, the water is hypersaline, so it cannot be used for drinking water or for agricultural use. We are looking at using a benign lixiviant, so this is an amino acid which is used as preservatives in food, so it has no impact to animals or human consumption. I think the thing is it doesn't actually help the environment, but it doesn't have any impact on the environment. The other thing to point out with ISR is there's no open cut, there's no major waste dumps, hence no dust, etc. So very minimal impact to the surface. There'll be a series of wells. The farmer can still have livestock wander around, and then once those wells are removed at the end of the program, it can return to agricultural land use. So next question is about Alfred East and our rare earth announcements. We're still doing some metallurgical work on the rare earth. So we're doing some mini column tests on the copper recovery as well as the rare earth recoveries, and looking at whether we can use the same lixiviant to recover all of the metals, or whether we have to use potentially 2 flushes to get optimal recoveries. So as soon as we have some results on that, we will share that with the market. Next question, are there plans to eventually go into production, or will you look to sell off operations? We are an exploration company, so our objective is to add value through exploration, so drilling growth and build resource reserves. So obviously, in that case, we are looking for joint venture partners or to divest projects and hence monetize our assets as we move forward. For a junior company to transition into mining, although I do have a mining background, you do need a different skill set, and it would have to be a different board and management team to take it to that mining phase. So we really feel our strength is in the exploration space. You spoke recently about the Uravan mineral belt and its 5-to-1 vanadium to uranium ratio. However, the company tends to focus on the uranium. Why is this the case? That is correct. The Uravan mineral belt is unique in that it has a vanadium associated with the uranium. Essentially, you have a uranium core, if you like, and then a vanadium enriched halo around that. The main product we are exploring for is the uranium, but we do get the vanadium byproduct. We know that White Mesa Energy Processing Facility can extract both the uranium and vanadium. So we will obviously be looking at making money from both elements, but the focus really is on the uranium. With the vanadium redox batteries, we do see a strong market moving forward for the vanadium. What future funding do you think this needs in the short term? We've obviously just done a capital raise. We have that 2.2 million in the bank. This will allow us to keep the momentum going over in the US with our exploration and drilling programs, and obviously allow us to keep momentum up going at Alfred East. And then hopefully through monetizing of assets, we can supplement the cash in the bank. The uranium spot price is at a 12-year high. How much of a priority is advancing your US assets over the others? That is our priority. So our priority is very much focused on the uranium assets in the US and progressing those as quickly and efficiently as we can. We know that the spot price is obviously at a 52% high for this year, but we feel that that's going to continue to run both short-term and long-term based on the key fundamentals. So getting that project up and potentially looking for other uranium assets is our objective. And I think we've almost come to the last question. Can you give more detail on selling of your assets to raise funds? So as I mentioned, we want to focus on our uranium assets. And so that does basically come to Ragged Range being a non-core asset. So looking to divest that project. Over the last probably 18 months, we did divest Pilot Mountain Tungsten Project, and we have farmed out our Molly Hill project. And this has obviously generated cash for the company. So looking at other alternatives to monetize projects and bring in funds other than just going back to the market to do capital raises. Thank you all very much for those questions that you've submitted.
Nicole, thank you very much indeed for being so generous of your time and addressing all of those questions that came in from investors this morning. And of course, if there are any further questions that do come through, we'll make these available to you immediately after the presentation has ended, just for you to review, to then add any additional responses, of course, where it's appropriate to do so. And we'll publish all those responses out on the Investor Meet Company platform. But Nicole, perhaps before really just looking to redirect those on the call to provide you with their feedback, which I know is particularly important to yourself and the company, if I could please just ask you for a few closing comments just to wrap up with, that would be great.
Well, thank you all for joining me today. As Jake's mentioned, this will be on our website. But just in closing, I'd just like to highlight that we have strong exploration momentum. We've got a strategic plan focused on the uranium and energy metals. We have cash in the bank, and we have a very enthusiastic, experienced board and management team that really want to drive these projects forward. So thank you very much.
Nicole, that's great. And thank you once again for updating investors this morning. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you'll now be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management team can really better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of 4Energy PLC, we would like to thank you for attending today's presentation. That now concludes today's session, so good morning to you all.